Hey guys, welcome to Max Electronics live stream. First live stream that I thought would be just chilled, you can jump onto chat and ask me questions. I was running because I'm out of breath because I was running from outside. So, any questions that you have, may have technical questions, anything you like, we can chat about stuff if anyone goes online. If not, I've got a few things that I'll show you that I've got around, maybe the way my lab is set up, maybe, I've got few things that I've actually been doing. As you saw my recent video, I've got those modules for sale. They're pretty cool. That's the WS2811 floodlight controls. So you can buy one for $8. I'll show you actually on the other camera, give me a second. So those ones are that you can buy as a module, and you can buy a ready circuit board already and don't bother soldering together. So you've got everything here that you want, all the parts, all the components, all in there, and make your own addressable floodlight. What else I was going to say? Also, I've noticed a lot of people commenting with links, say like, oh, try this, and they send a link on YouTube in the comment section, and then the comment gets removed because the link is there. So I can give you links for some reason, that's fine. But if you give me a link for anything, it will get removed, and then you get flagged as per YouTube policy. Apparently you're not allowed to put any links down there. So what else? Let me know how my audio is, if it's all right. Then also YouTube removes comment. I've seen few people commenting, for example, asking me for help, saying, hey, I've got this problem, can you help me with that? And I get an email notification with it, so I'll read the message and I go to YouTube to reply it, and there'll be comment missing, so no comment. So for no reason, I've tried contacting YouTube about that, and they say, oh, it's just our algorithm. What else I've got? I've also, so links. So let me know also if you would like to see any of my videos. When I build something, I usually skip through parts. So say when I'm soldering, I usually say, okay, I'm going to solder this, and then I'll show you the ready product. Some people prefer to see me soldering, so or doing something that takes lengthy time. So if you are one of those people, let me know, and maybe I'll make videos that are longer and more, in depth, so you can see the whole process instead of just cuts. What else? I can also show you some soldering right now if you want, the way to solder, because some people also commented that they have bad solder joints and it doesn't work, it's got a bad soldering iron. It's a skill. It's very simple once you know a few tricks. So if we turn to the bench right now, I will show you how to solder, how I solder at least, and what you need. So let's do that. Get that out of the way. I'll flick my soldering iron on. I usually set mine to 360 degrees, and I use this tip. As you can see, it's dirty, so I need to clean it. Once it's hot, then you'll be able to clean it. Or what else I use to clean? Well, first of all, RA type flux is good for strong connections, so you can buy that usually on eBay. To clean it off, I use the thinner, paint thinner or lacquer thinner. Just the soldering I use is a standard 4060, so with a flux core. And depending on what you're doing, there's 0.7 millimeters, there's some that I've got even thinner or thicker. The other thing important is I use that metal brush thing, it's copper brush, to clean your soldering iron. So when you're doing something, you just literally just dip it in there and it cleans the tip. As you can see, it's already cleaning it. So paper towels as well is good, so just wipe your tip so it's nice and shiny. And tin it straight away. So once you wiped it, just add a little bit of solder, and you got nice clean soldering iron. So for soldering, I'll grab a wire. The first one that sticks out, probably not that, that's a battery attached to it. Or maybe that will do. So when you strip it, if it's an older wire, obviously you'd want to replace it. But if it's a good fresh wire, the trick is, so let me zoom right in. So the trick is, you touch the, dip the, also you'd need a soldering paste like this one. It's just the cheap Chinese stuff. You just dip your soldering iron in there. It cleans it and it helps to solder as well. You get the solder close to the wire and then you touch it together like that and feed the solder and remove it. And now you've got a perfect solder. So I'll see if I can show you on the light. Look at that. So that's the best way to solder. For desoldering, I use, and then dip your soldering iron again in that flux paste and clean it quite often. Don't need to clean it, you know, every time you solder. I've had a friend who I've told that you need to keep your soldering iron clean, and she just kept, you know, cleaning. She'd do one joint and then cleaning it in one joint. And I said, no, you don't need to do that. So also for desoldering, I use this RMA 218 flux. That's a great stuff. It's a paste as well. As you can see, I usually use it for desoldering of ICs or anything like that. You just smudge it around the IC and use a hot gun or, you know, even normal solder. That's a great stuff. And once you finish soldering, I use the lacquer thinner again. This just comes in a big bucket. You can get it, you know, for pretty cheap, I think. It's industrial lacquer thinner, and you can just use that in a smaller bottle. And cotton buds as well help sometimes. So let's go back to the main screen. That's how I usually do soldering. What else I can show you? I can probably, if I find my second camera, I can patch it into the desk and I can show you all my parts and components. That's always fun. So I wonder if, yeah. I lost my thought. That's all right. So I'm working on the project at the moment that is a big HMI light that consumes 30 amps. I'm still trying to figure out how to plug it in. I'll probably patch it into main board, into the distribution board, because that's the only place I can source 30 amps at 250 volts, 240 to 50. There's a Fresnel lens that I've already shown you in the previous video. Let me get that for you. It's massive. This is, yeah, giant Fresnel lens. It's cool. It should be 2500 watt HMI, so some ridiculous 100,000 looms or something, thousand or million. It's some very, very bright stuff. So that's a very important part of HMI, by the way. So if you're ever playing with them, make sure you have some sort of a glass or lens, because that filters the UVC light that they emit, because they have a quartz envelope, so the tube itself. And if you don't have anything filtering the UV, you're going to get a retina burns, and I've had that when I was a kid. That's actually a funny story that I'll tell you in a sec. So when I was, I don't know, probably 10 years old, I think about that. And I've, you know those kitchen range hoods that you have? We had a really cool one that was doing the filtering as well as lights, and it had a UVC inside, so for disinfection. So you could turn it on, you can't see it, you just see the slight glow from, you know, the edges, and you turn the range hood on and it would kill all the bacteria that's going through the filter. And we decided to upgrade that. I was a kid then, so we took out the old one off, and I wanted to get all the spare parts out of it, of course, because I was a kid, didn't have, you know, many electronic stuff around. So I got the UVC tube, which was probably about that long, and got all this ballast for it and everything, and I've assembled it in a piece of wood and turned it on. And as you know, UVC, it's got this ghostly blue glow, very interesting. The tube itself is clear, of course. So UVA is your typical nightclub UV, that is black light, also called. The UVC is a clear light with a ghostly blue, almost like a sky type glow. And I was looking at it literally that close, because I was very interested in that gas that was glowing, and I wanted to see it up close. So I looked at it not for too long, probably for about 30 seconds maybe, and didn't really happen. Nothing really happened till maybe it was 8 p.m. when I did that, and by about 3 a.m. I started getting like sand feeling in the eyes. It was unpleasant. By about 4 a.m. it was really painful. You can't imagine how painful that is. It's like someone's rubbing sand into your eyes. It's that bad. So I called an ambulance, and ambulance came, and they couldn't figure out. They first thought it was conjunctivitis, because the night before I also played with the cats, like stray cats. and the doctor thought conjunctivitis, but then they had a look properly, and I don't remember how it got mentioned that I was playing with the UVC, and the doctor said, oh well, I've burnt my retinas, so apparently there was no permanent damage there, so that was good. But I remember that experience, and afterwards they did the anesthetic drops in eyes, so it wasn't painful anymore, but every time you'd close your eyes it would be painful and it would settle down, and every time you open your eyes it would be painful as well, and when you open your eyes just literally just out of focus, everything's out of focus, like you're drunk or on Valium or something like that. It was very close, feeling. So that's the story how I got UVC burn on my eyes. Again, if you want, you can comment. Could be Q&A. Again, it's the first stream, so I thought I'll see how it goes. And you can ask me questions. The chat is open, and I'm watching the chat right now. It could be maybe some advice. If you want advice, again, ask me and see what I can do for you, because it's very uncomfortable. I've had a lot of people asking me in comments saying, for example, recent one was, oh, I've got a projector with the lines across the screen. Do you know what that could be? It's hard to go backwards and forwards, so maybe in the chat it'll be easy if you just say, hey, I've got that and I can explain to you. I've got a video actually that explains all the projector and how the projector optic engine works, which polarizes which is information very hard to find. There is actually, once you get to the filtering, so you got all the mirrors and you got red, green and blue, beams beaming into the yoke of the projector. That's where all the polarizers are and where the prism is. The problems are usually in there. So you've got one polarizer, which is called input polarizer. It's assembled into the engine itself. So if you take the yoke out, you'll pull out all the parts except that polarizer. That stays usually on the engine itself, and it's adjustable. You can see you can tilt it just like that slightly. So that's the input polarizer, and that polarizer is usually never goes bad. After that, you got UV filtering glass, you've got another filtering glass, and the last one, which is very hard to see as well. So when you're looking at the yoke, you might miss that polarizer. It's the called output polarizer, and that's what goes bad. And sometimes by looking at it, you can't even see that it's bad unless you pull it out. And the way to get to it is from between the prism itself. So you got the cube, which is prism, and the first glass that is just next to the prism. You can just get to it. It's your output polarizer. That's usually one that goes bad. It's either green or blue. Also, the when you're looking at it, it's better to shine a light on the polarizer through it. So once you get it out, if you suspect it's your green polarizer, get the polarizer out, get a torch, shine through the polarizer at the distance. So you have the spill of the light on the table. Say if you're shining on the white sheet of paper, your torch should be shining around the sheet as well as through polarizer, and you will see the shadow of the polarizer. If the shadow is perfect, the light goes through polarizer, evenly, then it's fine. But if you see shadows or clouds inside that shadow of the polarizer chances are it's dead. Or try looking through it as well, and you will see if the picture is crystal clear when you're looking through it, it's fine. But if you see something, lines, so a bit of a blurriness, then your polarizer is gone. So that's usually the how you identify bad polarizers. Also, really bad idea to remove LCDs. Some people say, oh, I'll take the LCDs off and clean them. Do not do that. If you remove the LCD, you will definitely not put it back together. I mean, you will, but the problem will be the convergence. You will not be able to get it exactly aligned. I've made that mistake when I just started with the projectors. And what I've done is I've tried to realign it by putting it up. I've just put the screws in the actual LCD, so it's still loose in the engine. I've temporarily assembled the engine together without the main board or anything. I've used the HMI torch, which is HID torch actually, it's those searchlights, to shine in the projector where the lamp's supposed to be. And I've projected the image, very dull image, onto the wall, and got the video camera next to the wall so I could see it on the monitor, so I could see the pixels. And then I used a blue tack and blue tacked that LCD panel so I can move it and it'll stay in the same placement where I've just moved it. And looking at the screen that films the camera films the actual projection from that searchlight. I've slightly tweaked it, and once I got it almost perfect, I think it was within 2-3 pixels, it's as close as I could get it. Then I did a drop of a super glue, and once the super glue set, I've removed the whole engine out and removed the blue tack out or white tack, and then I screwed the screws in, and it was alright. It was viewable. It wasn't perfect, but aligning it perfect would be very, very hard. So that's on the projector topic. I've got also a lot of video. My most viewed video on the channel is the circuit board manufacturing, how I do the circuit boards. I've been told that it's very detailed, and people are happy with that video, and it's got a lot of views as well. It's actually the most watched video on the channel. So I'm thinking of making another one, but this time making a double-sided circuit board. And the secret is, I'll tell you in the theory, I still have to experiment a bit with the chemicals, but in theory, you take the blank sheet of the Textilite with the copper, double-sided copper. You should be using CNC, but you can do it by hand if you do it precisely. You drill the vias, or all your through holes, plus vias. Once that's done, print out the circuit board in inverted image, so inverted color. So if normally we'd have a positive photoresist, and you would have everything that you want to keep, all the tracks would be covered in photoresist, and everything you want to get rid of or dissolve in ammonium sulfate or ferric chloride, you leave exposed. This time you got to do it in reverse. So everything you want to keep is got to be exposed, and everything you want to dissolve is going to be covered. Once you do that on both sides, you add what is it, graphite paint into the holes, into the vias and through holes, and once it's added, use a vacuum cleaner to suck it all up so it still leaves the residue there. Then you use electroplating, which I'm still experimenting with a few chemicals, and I'm experimenting so it's doable at home, so it's easily, you can go to a hardware store and get those chemicals from your hardware store and make the solution and plate it just with your power supply and those chemicals. Once you plated it, then you dip it in liquid tin as is, so it's just been plated. You dip it in liquid tin, and liquid tin will get everything but the photoresist, so it'll tin all the exposed tracks that are going to be conducting inside the new plated vias and everything. Once we've done that, we strip the board of the photoresist, and you will end up with a steel metal circuit board, but all the copper will be is what we don't want, and all the tin tracks will be what we want. And using ammonium sulfate, we're going to etch it, so just dip the whole board in, and ammonium sulfate is not going to touch the tinted tracks. It'll eat the copper, but tint tracks will stay there. So once you remove it from there, it's done. It's double-sided circuit board with the vias and plated, so that's the plan. I haven't done that yet. It's all in theory, but I will experiment with that. That would be very interesting. What else I've got? Let me just go grab my second camera, and I'll show you around the lab, I guess. So give me a second. Okay. Yeah, audio is working good. So I've got the second camera, so I can plug it in instead of this one, and I'll show you around the lab. Put the wrong cable. Yeah, definitely need a producer. By the way, if anyone wants to help out and do a logo for the channel, as you saw my intro, if you want to do something based on that, you're welcome to help out and volunteer your time on maybe even video intro that is good. But yeah, definitely need logo and definitely need a producer, because at the moment I'm doing everything myself. So let me just... Okay, so here is what I'm broadcasting off, if you're interested. So that's my video broadcasting desk, and that's the media player that plays all the videos and intros and outros, and I got it from BBC, actually, funny enough. So let's have a look around my lab. So I've got the IC infrared oven here, and that's where I usually bake my boards. Then I've got little homemade power supply that is, from the computer power supply. I just thought I'd do all the pinouts and put a little adjustable voltage regulator, so it's multi-output. Sometimes it's very handy. I do have a normal power supply that I use most of the time, but if I need multiple power supplies, and especially like minus 12 volts, minus 5, plus 3 and 3, it's this one, and plus variable voltage, of course. Desoldering gun here. With my audio recorder here that I use for when I make the videos for YouTube, that's you've actually seen the video on that. I've turned the Tascam recorder into this one, into bench. I've got this VC multimeter right next to the power supply. So I've got the multifunction counter. I've seen a few other ones, and I was going to buy another one, but then they look a bit more modern than this one, but then they didn't have all the functions and speed and resolution. This one can go up to 2.7 gigahertz, and it's pretty good. It's quite accurate. I've measured it. Above that, I've got the little arbitrary waveform generator or function generator. Here I've got the soldering iron, your typical Yahoo. And on the left, I've got the curve tracer. So this is the storage oscilloscope, but I've turned it into curve tracer. That's why you can see there's a high and low curve trace here, and it's just marked which setting's supposed to be. And what I've done, actually, instead of having an attachment, you know how the center is supposed to be off, so you got AC, then you got off and DC, so the middle one is now curve tracer. That's for the CT probes. That's what ground's supposed to be, but that's CT probes, and again CT function here, and yeah. So once it's all set to CT, then it can be used as a curve tracer, and I'll show you now once it warms up. I've replaced also the backlight for the grid to red LEDs. There's a lot of lights here at the desk, so that's why you're seeing that. But yeah, so here we go. There's a line, and you can make it larger or smaller depending on your and the voltage as well. So you can see it's very nice device. It's off center a bit, but yeah. Very helpful in diagnosing resistors or or trim pots, relays, all that sort of stuff, faults in the circuit. Then above that, I'll turn that off. I've got your standard Hantek DSO 5102P oscilloscope, label maker on top of that spits out all the labels. And I've got a couple more here. I've got a receipt printer and a label printer. I've got a Variax sitting just down there because I don't use it often. Barcode scanner, because I barcode everything. It helps me keep the track of components. So when I use a new component, I scan it into system, and it registers that I've taken it. And when I run low, the system tells me I need to reorder the components, so I usually reorder more. And it also helps, if I don't know if I have that part, I can quickly type it in and search. If I do have it, it tells me where, which shelf. Here I've got a little test bench supply that I have. That is hooked up to, that's just to turn that test power point on and off. So that switch is just not used. So our RCBO, so it's a safety switch in one, and it shows me the wattage, amperage, current voltage. And if I scroll here, it shows me the consumption, which I don't use, those two now, and that shows me the power factor as well. Now that lets me see the two bulbs there. That's the limiter. So if it's up, the limiter is on, and if I have a short circuit, the bulb's just going to light up. Or if it's a low power consumption, they'll just dimly glow. And obviously that bypasses the current limiting. So this one is the variac, so that actually gives you power to the variac. And now if I turn that switch on, you'll see the variac turns on, and it does consume. So power factor is terrible, pretty much 0.475, and it consumes about 21 watts of power, 180 milliamps. So that's the test circuit. Now what else can I show you? I've got all the cables for testing that are here, the whole array. At the top I've got the spot welder there and my little SMD station that I've made a while back. Now let's have a look at the cabinets. So all my components and parts, it's probably going to get a bit dark in here since it's not lit up, but as you can see, everything is there and everything is barcoded. So all the capacitors, everything got barcodes on them, as you can see. LEDs, I've got 3 stacks of LEDs, all different ones. I think this is just RGBs. This is others like whites and purples, UV, and that's just random different shapes and sizes and just all sorts of stuff that I've got there. All my tapes and wires. I do have another cabinet, but it's a big mess at the moment, so that's a thermal imaging camera here, so I don't want to show you the other cabinet because it is a big mess. So that's pretty much, that's the printer that I'm using for a circuit boards to print on transparency film. I modified it slightly, its brother, and I like it because that container here contains the cartridges with the ink, so you can just open it up and fill it up, so you don't need the head itself. You can't actually access the head from there either. Can't get those printers anymore. So, big mess around there. You don't want to see that. So let's switch back to the other camera. So that's what I've got around. That's what I'm using. That's it, I think, for today's stream. Again, the chat's open, so you can still comment and I'll reply. And I guess we'll do another stream sometime soon. Let me get the... Maybe next weekend, I'm not sure. We'll just see how it goes. So what time people usually watch, I don't know. Again, like this is my first stream on here, so I don't know what time people watch the stream or what time I should go online. But that's it, I think, for this stream. Yeah, I have to watch. Yeah, I need a producer who would be sitting controlling the desk there. Again, if you have any questions, the chat will be still there. Comment, like, subscribe to the channel. The channel has been growing actually quite rapidly, and especially the watch hours. A lot of people watching, so hopefully we will see you soon, guys. Bye.